All right, so we've just done the quiz, the first one. There will be 2 more quizzes this semester and a couple of exams. Your nodal method assignments due tonight by 11:59. So I've got office hours today from 3 until 5. If you have any lingering questions on how to solve that, feel free to stop by. Sadly, we don't have class on Friday, so hopefully you'll find something good to do on Friday. I don't know what the rationale is for February break. I think it's just meant to be maybe like a mental health day kind of a thing. So maybe you should go roller skating or sledding or something while we still got a little bit of snow. Do something to get out of your normal routine. Don't just study. Do something else. Go for a run. Homework 5, which is related to Hardy Cross, I'm going to have that posted this afternoon. I'm just making a few adjustments to that assignment, and then it'll be due a week from Friday. So you've got plenty of time for that because you've done Hardy Cross now for the last 2 class meetings. We're going to wrap up the second Hardy Cross example today, and then you've got more than a week to do. It includes Hardy Cross and then also some questions related to water hammer. And we'll talk about water hammer on Monday next week. Okay, so anybody have questions on the announcements, schedule issues? So we're going to finish the example. I hope you saved your work last time. Pull that up on Excel. And then I hope we'll also have some lingering time after that, and we'll solve a couple more Hazen Williams problems just to get some additional practice there. So just to refresh your memory on what we did last time, we had this network, a pipe network, where we know the water's coming in at certain junctions. We know it's going out at certain junctions, and our method was to do an initial flow balance so that continuity is satisfied at each junction, meaning in equals out at each one of these labeled nodes. And then our process was to try and balance the energy so that there's the same amount of head loss through each path between 2 points. And so this shows the initial flow balance that I did. Some of you maybe had your own flow rates. And then we went through the process of having initial guess F values based on the fully turbulent flow assumption, and that allows us to use a simplified version of Jane that doesn't include the Reynolds number. And we calculated this correction delta Q, and we adjusted the initial guess flow rates according to the delta Q, came up with improved versions of it. And then we had these pipes that are in both of the loops. They're the ones that are in bold, and what was special there is not only do we have an updated guess of the flow rate that's better than our initial flow guess, but also we had to remember to put the minus sign in when we were referencing that flow rate, because the perspective is different in loop 1 versus loop 2 in terms of clockwise versus counterclockwise. So the first iteration took a kind of a while because we had to type in every formula. Second iteration took a lot less time because really the main adjustment we were making was we now had a new version of the F value. We're using the full Jane equation rather than the fully turbulent flow version of the Jane equation. So we updated the F values, and then for the flow rates, we didn't start over with our initial guess in the second iteration, but what we did was we referenced the updated flow rate, and we tried to find the most recently calculated guess of the flow rate. And so for the pipes that aren't bold, it's just the output of the previous iteration. And the pipes that are bold, we looked at the opposite loop. And so then that's why we had the negative value there. So iteration 2 maybe took a little bit more time, but it looked like things were headed in the right direction because our correction factor, delta Q, was smaller in the second iteration, and therefore the percent change was decreasing. So the third iteration was really easy. In the third iteration, we just copied the entire block of calculations and constants, and we pasted it again. And because it was relying on relative roughnesses, it applied all the same calculations, but then the input guess values in iteration 3 was the output of iteration 2. So that's why it's doing something different in iteration 3, is because it's looking at the end value for iteration 2, and it's just running through the correction factors again. And so our delta Q was smaller in the third iteration, but on a percentage basis, we still had this one pipe that hadn't quite converged, and so we did a fourth iteration. And it was in the fourth iteration that we got close enough. By the way, on your homework that's due tonight, on that second problem, I think it'll probably take you 4 iterations for your solution to converge. And if it's like 1.5% below, not below 1% change, just leave it at 4 iterations. I don't want to torture you too much. 4 iterations is enough. So that's what we did here. We did 4 iterations, and the flow rates, the end flow rates are illustrated here at the bottom. Let's just do a spot check to make sure inflow equals outflow at a couple of the junctions. Because if it doesn't, then we've made a mistake somewhere. It's not just looking for a decreasing correction factor. That's not the only indication of convergence. We still have to satisfy continuity at each of the junctions. So let's look at junction A. In 1 cubic meter per second, out 0.419, 0.581. Yeah, if I add those two together, it equals 1. Okay, so we're good at junction A. Let's look at junction E. Out 1.6, in 0.808, 0.792. Yes, junction E looks good. In fact, all of the junctions have the correct flow balance. It looks like I didn't label CD with the flow rate. So CD, the flow rate there, 0.811. So yeah, it all works. So this is the final answer. The flow rates that are shown in this corrected Q column for iteration 4, these are the flow rates that I put onto the sketch. Now, where we left off was trying to find the pressure at each junction. So from the sketch, I've drawn the direction of flow. And we know that head is decreasing in the direction of flow. And that's why the flow is going from one location to another, is because there's more energy at A compared to B. So that's what's driving the flow from A towards B. So here, the head at A is defined by the known pressure at A. And remember that head is the pressure divided by the unit weight of the liquid. And so if the pressure at A is 600 kilopascals, then I'll divide that by 9.81 kilonewtons per cubic meter, and that's how I found out that the head at A is 61.162 meters. So there will have to be less head at B. Why does there have to be less head at B? Because the water's going from A to B. So it wouldn't do that if the head at B was more. So how much less is it? Well, it's however much head there was at A minus the losses through that pipe. So over here, we can calculate the head loss through each pipe. And we're going to do that using the Darcy-Weisbach equation. So we're going to calculate the head loss through each pipe using H sub F is F L V squared divided by D to G. Or, since we don't have, do we have the velocities? No, we've got the flow, well yeah, we've got the velocities here. So we could do it in terms of flow rate or velocity. If I was going to do it in terms of flow rate, I'd say FLQ squared divided by D2G A squared. But since I already have the velocities, I'll use that instead. Okay, so let's go over here to the pipe head loss. So equals F, so here's the F value, times the length of the pipe. Here's the length, 220. FL V squared. So now I need the velocity, which is T V squared divided by the diameter. Here's the diameter, 0.5. D times 2 times G. And I'm in SI units, so it's 9.81. So the head loss through pipe AB is 3.49 meters. And all I have to do is drag that cell down through the rest of the rows, and it's going to calculate the head loss through each of the pipes. So the amount of head at B is the head at A minus the loss through pipe AB. So if there was 61.162 meters of head at junction A, subtract 3.49 from that, and that means that there's 57.672 meters of head at junction B. And so therefore, how much pressure is there? Well, remember our relationship between pressure and head. The pressure is the head times the unit weight of water. So the pressure at B is the head there multiplied by 9.81 kilonewtons per cubic meter. So it's 565.76 kilopascals at junction B. All right, now what about junction C? Okay, to get to junction C, I'm going against the flow. So that means that the head is higher at C than it is at B. So the head at C is the head at B plus the losses through pipe BC. So let me find, here is the losses through BC. It's pretty low, 0.00. That's just because it's only showing, like to the nearest hundredth. If I had it show more, there is some head loss there. It's just really, really small because the flow rate's so low. There's hardly any water going through that pipe. So the pressure at C is going to be pretty close to the pressure at B because there's not much flow. Now let's look at junction D against the direction of flow going from C to D. So the head at D is the amount of head at C plus the losses through CD. So here's that. And then I can just drag the formula down for the pressure. Now we're looking to find junction E. How much head is there at E? So we go from C, and we're losing head in the direction of flow. So the head at E is however much head there was at C minus the loss through CE, which here I've got that. It's 1.71 meters. We drag this down and find the pressure equivalent of that head, and then the last one. At junction F, we have a couple of options. Actually, we had options with each of the junctions, but this is a good place to illustrate it. I can calculate the head at junction F by either saying it's however much head there is at A minus the losses through AF, or I could say it's how much head there is at E plus the losses through EF. Let me try both just to prove a point. So I'm going to start with the head at A. So the head at F is the head at A minus the losses through AF. So here's that, the losses through AF. So it's 56.394. I'm going to write this on the board so I don't forget. 56.394 meters. That is if I go from A towards F. What if I do it from E to F? Okay, so it would be however much head there is at E, and then I have to increase the head because I'm going against the direction of flow. So plus the losses through EF. 56.393, 56.394. That's pretty close. You know, like we're within less than probably 0.1%. And I could do the same thing from D. I could say it's the head at D minus the losses through DF. Because there's 3 different pipes connected to junction F. And so I'd get the same amount of head regardless of the route that I take. So these are the pressures at each of the junctions. So does anybody have questions about how we found the pressure at the junctions? Anybody need to see something another time before we move on? All right, so we do have a little bit of time left. Let me hand out these Hazen Williams problems. And the reason why is you're very likely to see Hazen Williams problems on the FE exam. They are they're good like 3-4 minute type problems. And the FE exam, you have to, I write for the FE exam, I write questions, and what they tell us to do is the average time that students can take on a problem is less than 4 minutes. And so when you're writing questions for the FE exam, you're trying to find ways to assess knowledge in a quick way. And these Hazen Williams problems are good for that. So a couple of practice problems here. Did you guys need one more?
No, there was an extra.
Oh, it's an extra.
We need 2 more.
2 more here?
We only need 2 more.
Let's see if my second solution had better luck. Anybody finished the second problem yet? So this one's tricky because it's in traditional units, and those are always awkward. We have to convert the pressure from PSI into pounds per square foot for things to make sense. The diameter into feet. So for this one, you know, the Hazen Williams equation is generally provided in terms of using the slope of the energy grade line to find the velocity, or if the velocity is known, using that to find the head loss due to pipe friction. And so here what we're doing is we're finding the head loss due to pipe friction. So if you substitute in the length, the flow velocity, and so on, there's going to be 39.82 feet of head loss, and then you put that into the energy equation, rearranging the energy equation in terms of P2, and it's going to be 62.9 pounds per square inch. Okay, I'll leave this up if you want to copy it down. We're out of time. It's 12:50, so you're free to leave. Remember, we don't have class on Friday. I'm going to post the next homework assignment this afternoon, so look for that on Blackboard.